not a bunch of crazy headlines yet. We're not into deep. Well, I mean, we're doing some combines coming up and pro days, but not too much into that yet. Obviously mock drafts, but those are meaningless. And then some stuff with potential free agency trade rumors, but we're not there yet either. So not too much going on, but there is a little bit. So let's start off with this. Jimmy Garoppolo. So of course, as we all remember, the 49ers lost to the eventual and current reigning Super Bowl champion. I was about to say St. Louis Rams, Los Angeles Rams. In the NFC Championship game, Garoppolo, I mean, if you look at his stats, he played fine, but he didn't really do much in the second half, cost the interception on that final drive, just very ugly. Overall, for the past couple of years, putting that Super Bowl season aside where they lost to the Chiefs, I think a lot of people have been saying that maybe it's time for the 49ers to move on from Jimmy G, that they were winning in spite of him, not because of him. I think especially after drafting Trey Lance, it seemed very much that it was time for them to move on for Jimmy G. That being said, it was reported this week by Adam Schefter that the trade that everyone was banking on happening maybe isn't that bankable. Schefter's reporting that there's a true possibility that it's, I don't want to say there's a likelihood, but I'll just say there's a solid chance that Garoppolo is actually not traded and then he actually stays around for at least another year. Apparently, Trey Lance is a little further behind than when people thought he would be when he was, coming out of college. Which, to be honest, I don't know why they thought that, considering he played one game in college at North Dakota State because of COVID. But, hey, look, he played a little bit this year. I can't say I'm a 49ers fan, so I wasn't really watching him that closely. But, apparently he needs some more work. And this is a roster built to win now. Very solid defense. You got playmakers in the offense, Deebo Samuel, Elijah Mitchell, George Kittle. This is a team they're trying to win. So does it really make sense to put in a young quarterback who's not ready right away? So because of that, there's some thoughts that maybe he's going to stay around in San Francisco. Schefter also said that the move and the market for Jimmy G depends on what happens with the other quarterbacks. So if Rodgers, Wilson, Watson with his whole situation, if all of them just stay put, then obviously the market for Jimmy G is going to heat up a lot more because he's the only quarterback who's really available. Those guys go on the move, suddenly Jimmy G doesn't seem that valuable to anybody. So I'm just kind of curious as we sit here, Maddie, do you think, whether or not it's going to happen, I don't think any of us can predict, but do you think it's a right decision to hang on to Jimmy G if you're the 49ers?
So originally, I didn't really see the benefit of it. Now, though, as I look deeper into Trey Lance, I know we say, you can't put too much on him, only playing that one game in college, but he's only played about, 3 games since his 20th birthday. I think it's really hard to then throw him onto a 49ers team in this new season when there's so many uncertainties with him. I don't think it's a bad idea to keep Jimmy G around, alternate a couple of games, get this kid in the groove to really establish that 49ers offensive line with him. Because I feel like if you start throwing these rookies on with these more experienced offensive liners, you're going to have the same problem with that we had with Jimmy G, where he just was, in my opinion, underperforming compared to the rest of the team.
Mm-hmm.
He was not a bad quarterback by any means. I picked them to win over the Rams, actually.
And you're almost right too, actually.
But it's just, he was just not the right fit for the Rams, and so you have to make sure that this new kid, Trey Lance, is going to be that right fit for you. You must have seen something out of college with him. I mean, North Dakota State is...
Well, Carson Wentz played in North Dakota State.
That is true. Injuries both plague them as well, which is a little bit of a concern with the 49ers. So, again, like I said, I don't see the issue with hanging on to Jimmy G just for a little bit longer, just because I personally don't see these other teams really saying, I really want Jimmy G to be on my team, to be my quarterback, when we said there are other options, when there are new classes of people rising up. He just, to me, doesn't really rank in my top 10 of, yes, I want him, he's going to be my quarterback.
Yeah, I'll say this real quickly. I just said this before, but you reminded me as well. I don't understand why the 49ers, if this is true, that they're surprised he's taking so long to develop. Like you said, when you draft a guy out of North Dakota State, like a Carson Wentz who was drafted out of there, or a Josh Allen who was drafted out of Wyoming, you were drafting development projects because these guys have crazy raw athleticism. I think Trey Lance, I don't think he's exactly built 100% like Josh Allen, but there's a lot of similar traits. So look at Josh Allen. That guy, that's someone who took time to develop. And the Bills, when he got there, were not a win-now team. Obviously now they're a Super Bowl contender. Trey Lance, it's the same thing. It's going to take time to develop him, but you have a win-now roster. So I'm a little surprised. The 49ers were surprised that he isn't ready in year 2. I mean, to me, it took Josh Allen 3 years to really become a very solid quarterback. But, Eli, you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, if you don't fully trust your young guy yet, which isn't really his fault, he's a young quarterback, and like you said, sometimes they take time to develop. I'm not particularly worried about Trey Lance. I think he has a lot of potential. I just think he needs, maybe another year. But I think they keep Jimmy G because if you really want to step up in quarterback and you want to go for Rodgers or Russell Wilson or someone, I feel like you have a really solid team right now. If we don't look at the quarterback position for a second, Jimmy G's good, but you know what I mean. That you'd have to give up pieces of that team or, first-round picks for these high-level quarterbacks that I don't know. You never know how that's going to work if you're going to end up with a net positive or maybe you lose a key player in the trade and the quarterback comes in, but it just doesn't work out. So I think they stick with Jimmy G, and then hopefully Trae Young can kind of show up.
Trae Young.
Excuse me. Oh my gosh. Hopefully he can kind of show up next year.
Maybe that's what the 49ers need. I will say this, Mike Messina, who's sitting on the other side of the glass right now, we had a very spirited debate, me, him, Jack Roach, Nick DeLuca, live from Radio Row, about this idea that Mr. Jack Roach, who is a Mac Jones sycophant, he just is in love with Mac Jones, seems to think that you can still win a Super Bowl in this day and age of the NFL by having average to solid quarterback play. He thinks you can win without an elite quarterback. And we all told him that was absurd. And I defy anyone to show me the quarterback in the last 20 years. Now, Peyton Manning was brought up, and I think that's a fair point. Peyton Manning 2015 was not the Peyton Manning that, is the Hall of Famer. I get that. But at the same time, he's still Peyton Manning. There's still something in that brain, something in that shoulder that can get you over the top. The last 20 years, I defy you to find the Super Bowl winning team that did not have an elite quarterback. I mean, Joe Flacco, he's not elite, but he was elite for that 1 year, that one playoff run. If you want to go back to 2000, Trent Dilfer for the Baltimore Ravens was not an elite quarterback, and they won the Super Bowl, but that was 22 years ago. So my whole point of bringing this up is this. You're never going to win a Super Bowl with Jimmy G because he's not elite. I think Jimmy G is pretty good. I think he's pretty solid. To me, as the great Herm Edwards said, you play to win the game. As an organization, your goal always needs to be, we are trying to win the Super Bowl. And Jimmy G is just never going to get you there. So I appreciate that this is a win-now team with a very good roster that can contend for a Super Bowl next year. And they're like, Trey Lance isn't ready. Let's just do Jimmy G one more year. Well, that's the whole thing. You're saying we're going to do Jimmy G for one more year. What's the point of that? You're essentially punting on the season. You're just saying, we'll be fine with just getting to the NFC Championship and losing, or we'll be fine with getting to the divisional round and losing. That's not how, as an organization, you need to be thinking. It's Super Bowl or bust. That's what every organization needs to be. You're winning, unless you're Stephen Ross in the Dolphins and you want to pay coaches to lose. But that's the point. So to me, I get that Trey Lance maybe isn't ready, but he's your long-term answer. At least you think he is. So to me, there's no better substitute for experience than experience. Let him play. Let him play a season. Maybe you're going to have a dip in performance next year. Maybe it'll be a 500 team. But in the long run, you'll be better, and you'll actually be doing what the point of a team is. You'll be trying to win a Super Bowl. By starting Jimmy G next year and bringing him back, you are admitting to everyone, we are not really trying to win a Super Bowl. And that, to me, is not a good move. So I think what happens with these other quarterbacks, irrelevant. I don't think Jimmy G should come back to the 49ers next season. But we're talking quarterbacks, and we're talking about the quarterback market. Also this week, there was some more news with Aaron Rodgers. So obviously earlier, there was the whole mysterious Instagram post, is he retiring? He's thanking everyone, including his fiance who he broke up with. That's kind of odd.
They're back together today.
Apparently they're back together. Good for them. Whatever. Love is, love finds a way. Anyway, so that happens. Then he goes on the Pat McAfee show and says, I'm not making an announcement at this time. But the real news is that according to ESPN's Diana Rossini, the Packers quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, of course, is looking for a new deal that will pay him more money per year than any other player in NFL history. So then Rodgers went back on the McAfee show and said that was categorically false. But people have pointed out, well, maybe he's saying what's false is that he wants $50 million a year. Maybe he wants 45 and he'd still be the highest paid. He's playing semantics. Who knows? Yeah. So I don't know. So Rodgers, there's a question now, his salary, and obviously for a year now, the question has been, is he staying in Green Bay? There's been reports that a lot of teams have called in inquiring to his availability. The Packers don't necessarily want to trade him, but at the same time, it seems like Rodgers is in control because he made a deal to come back last year, and apparently they had a handshake deal, and then the GM is denying that. A lot going on. The question is he going to be traded, or is he staying with the Packers? And honestly, what is the best for Aaron Rodgers? To me, I don't know. I think it's tough. I think the Packers, as currently constituted, give him the best chance of the options. Because when you think about where is he going, People want to throw out the Broncos, maybe the Steelers. I think dark horse, maybe the Bucks, but I don't really know what they would have to give up. They need a quarterback, although apparently Bruce Arians said that he'd be fine starting, what's his face? It's really going to annoy me. I can't remember his name. The backup for the Buccaneers. I'm really annoying. Eli, if you can look that up for me. Thank you. Anyway, the point is, where is Rodgers going? The Packers on paper are a great team, but the problem is they are in a terrible salary cap situation. Probably not going to be able to afford Blaine Gabbert, by the way. I just remembered it.
God.
Blaine Gabbert, you don't want to start him. Anyway,
Yeah, no.
They're in a terrible salary cap situation. So to me, the roster's great right now, but the simple fact is, who knows if Devontae Adams is coming back? You're going to have to get rid of guys. Apparently, Zadarius Smith on the defense might be a cap casualty, etc. All right, Mike is also telling me that it was reminding me they have Kyle Trask, which again I don't know how. Maybe he's like a 3rd-round pick, so maybe he could do something. I don't really know. The point is the Bucks. I don't know. They have so loaded. Wouldn't it be crazy if they went from Brady to Rodgers? But that's not the point. The point is, I think it's better for Rodgers' legacy, and honestly, it makes more common sense for him to stay in Green Bay. That being said, because of the salary cap situation, I think it's possible that they're going to lose key guys that make that team what it is. So maybe it does make more sense for him to go to a team like Denver, which I think is kind of overblown, but I don't really know. So, Maddie, as we sit here today, what do you think is the best move for Aaron Rodgers?
Honestly, at this point, I am kind of at a weird point where trying to predict what Aaron Rodgers is going to do, because I feel like one day he says one thing, he gets on Pat McAfee's show, says another thing. I can't predict him anymore. So what I can go on is the fact that, number one, that retirement thing, I'm glad that shut down. There was no way he was going to retire. I think after this season, with his ego, the way all these controversies have been played up, and now that Brady is out, he has that time to be that quarterback, because I still feel like to an extent Brady was still that quarterback and Rodgers was a little bit behind him, just in my personal belief of that. And you can make the argument otherwise, but I think the issue is, now I've heard that he is on better terms with the Packers at the end of this season compared to last season. I don't know if that's changed in the last few days, because with Rodgers now everything can change in the last few days. But to me, it makes the most sense, I agree, for him to stay in Green Bay. It is so hard, though, to say if he will enjoy it, if there will be another meltdown. I can't guarantee they will even continue to go farther than an NFC championship. But I never would see him going to the Bucs, solely because I don't think you want to be in Brady's shadow like that, after the retirement season. That is just too much for him. I think the Broncos, I believe that there was potential there just because of the hirings that were just made over there. But even then, I still feel like he wouldn't want to go into that league with, the Chiefs and everything. I just feel like for him, it is best to stay in Green Bay. I think
it's best to stay in the NFC.
It's best to stay in the NFC. And so I feel like it's just better for him to stay there. Maybe he can get a last run in or something, but I think for his legacy,
I'll say this. He needs to, everyone's always said that Rodgers needs a second Super Bowl to really cement his legacy. He's already established himself. He, to me, is the modern Peyton Manning. Great regular season quarterback who just doesn't seem to get it done in the playoffs. And obviously Peyton was able to eventually get that Super Bowl, get a second one, and go out in the sunset.
Yeah.
Rodgers is odd in the fact that he got a Super Bowl relatively early in his career and then has never been back since. And in recent years, the last 3 years, ever since Matt LaFleur got there, they have just time after time been perennial playoff chokers. And to me,
right.
Rodgers needs at least a Super Bowl appearance, because I think he's very much getting part of his legacy, to me, is going to be that he choked in the playoffs all the time.
Oh, I would 100% agree with that. And I think that Green Bay, as a mountain as it looks like to overclimb to get that Super Bowl, to me, that's his best place. I feel like that's where he fits best. I really can't see him in any other team where I think, yes, they're going to win the Super Bowl with Rodgers here. To me, it just doesn't make sense. I'm not even that confident that he's going to win the Super Bowl in Green Bay, but I think it gives him the best odds at this point, and, it's kind of what you're going to have to deal with.
Look, the Packers were the number one seed in the NFC 2 years in a row now, couldn't capitalize on it, lose at home in the playoffs 2 years in a row. I don't know. To me, the Packers, it's crazy to me. The Green Bay Packers when did Favre start playing for them? Mid-90s? So, for almost 30 years, 25 years, whatever you want to say the number is, they had two of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. And they have exactly 2 Super Bowls to show for it. And that is just absolutely absurd.
Right.
But Will, do you have any? Will, what am I saying? Sorry, Eli. I'm reading something and it said Will, and I'm going to say Eli. Eli, What do you think about the Rodgers situation?
So I'm really intrigued on the kind of dynamic of Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers, because that's one of those like couples where, you know, Rodgers gets traded, Devontae Adams follows him, or they communicate, go to the same place. Like, you can take a team that's like kind of a playoff team to a Super Bowl team. Those two additions are huge, and a place that's kind of intriguing is the Colts. Carson Wentz, he might be on the move. There's some rumors there. T.Y. Hilton doesn't look like he's going to come back to the Colts.
He's
If
also
he does,
old
doesn't
and
really
not
matter.
very good.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe for the Colts to get a quarterback and Devontae Adams, you know, Rodgers, Devontae Adams go to the Colts. I'm intrigued. I don't think they could win a Super Bowl. I think they could make a splash, though. I do agree, though, that Rodgers, I personally want Rodgers to stay in Green Bay. I think he just fits well there, in the sense of, like, that's his place. Plus, I always love a player staying with their team, grinding out, trying to win a Super Bowl over a long period of time, instead of, you know, not selling out, but, like, kind of shifting.
Yeah, you could say selling out.
Yeah, I
It's
guess
selling
out.
Yeah, I mean, look, my thing is the idea of the quarterback and the receiver going together to one team. Number one, Devontae Adams could be franchise tagged, so I don't know how likely that is. Number two, we don't really see that a lot in the NFL. That's like a big NBA move, but NFL players don't really do that. Just because with the NFL, it's so much of a team sport. Like, two guys coming over. Trust me, if you got Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams, you're pretty good. But at the same time, like, you still need to have a defense. Or as the Packers showed, you cannot have incompetent special teams, because let's be honest, that Packers 49ers game, 49ers basically won that game on special teams. Now, Rodgers did not have a great game, low scoring, but I don't want to get into all that anyway. My whole thing is this, when it comes to Rodgers leaving, I'm just concerned. I think on paper, the Packers do give him the best chance. I'm just concerned, like I said, because of their terrible salary cap situation, a lot of these pieces that give them such a great chance, who knows if they can be able to keep them around. And then on the flip side, you talk about, I don't know if Devontae Adams would go with him. I do think the Colts are going to look for a quarterback. I think actually Jimmy G, who we've mentioned, makes a lot of sense for them. But does it, if you're Aaron Rodgers and you know that you need to have another Super Bowl or get to a Super Bowl to really improve this recent narrative of playoff choking, the AFC, when I said this over Radio Row, never before has the AFC been so stacked. Literally, when you think, I mean, it's the nature of football. It's all about the quarterback. It's about the offense. But literally, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. I already know that I'm forgetting someone. The point is that, I mean, even like just decent quarterbacks like Derek Carr. Like, I mean, like he's not a schlub by any means. I mean, the AFC is absolutely loaded, and if you're trying to get to a Super Bowl, the last thing I think you want to do is move over to that AFC and then have to contend with all those quarterbacks. So you look at the NFC now. Brady just retired. So, I mean, what quarterback in the NFC really scares you? I mean, Matthew Stafford obviously played well, but, I mean, even in that Super Bowl and in the playoff run, he makes mistakes all the time. I mean, off the top, I know I'm insulting someone by forgetting. I mean, Kirk Cousins, Dak. Like, I mean, no one really scares me in the NFC.
Come on, man. Daniel Jones.
Oh, yeah.
Get out of here.
Get
out of here with that garbage. Danny Dimes. I said it earlier. Mitch, I said this on one of my Giant friends. I am betting with you right now. Mitch Trubisky will be the starting quarterback of the New York Giants by the midway point of the season.
Please don't say that.
It
I still have faith.
Makes too much sense. Number one, Brian Dable, the offensive system. Mitch Trubisky, backup quarterback in Buffalo all year. Who knows the system? He's a free agent too. The Giants desperately need a backup quarterback because let me tell you, Mike Glennon and Jake Fromm, they're not the answer.
Don't even start with Glennon.
I'm telling you right now, it makes all the sense. And Mitch Trubisky will be your starting quarterback halfway through the season. That's not the point. We're losing track here. The bottom line is, be very interested to see what happens with Aaron Rodgers. I will say this: wherever he goes, it'll definitely be interesting, and I don't know. It's going to be something interesting to follow throughout the rest of the offseason, regular season, what have you.